Joining us is Jonathan Karl, our chief White House correspondent, who's obviously covered the Trump administration, covered the attack on January 6th, and you were there for this hearing last night. So let me ask you, you also had an interview with one of those first witnesses, that documentary filmmaker who was there with the attackers in the front wave. And I just, tell me what it was like being up there and what stuck out to you, especially about his testimony.
Well, first of all, the documentary filmmaker is such an extraordinary story. I mean, I thought I had known just about everything there is to know about January 6th. I mean, I wrote a book about it. But the fact that this guy had been there embedded with the Proud Boys, had shot with a film crew, the total of 4 of them, hours and hours of material, and had been with them not just on January 6th, but in the weeks leading up to it, and then basically sat on it all because he was so freaked out by what he saw, and he'd reached out to authorities. I mean, even just the story is new, but his material was really new. And he said something really interesting, Terry. He said that when he went there with them, remember, he had been with them for weeks, but when he went to Washington, January 6th, and instead of going to the president's speech, which is why they thought they were going, they went to the Capitol. This is even before Trump has taken the stand. So why? What's going on? Is there something else planned for this day than going to listen to a speech by the president? Obviously there was.
Because that's really the question, I think, that one of the questions at the heart of it. Was this planned or was it an eruption?
Yeah. And
will we learn that?
And, well, they certainly, the committee has said we will, and I think there's already some pretty good circumstantial evidence. You know, one of the key moments last night is actually information that we had known, but the way they presented it, you know, was that crazy meeting that Donald Trump had on December 18th in the White House with Michael Flynn, who had talked about martial law and rerunning the election in states he lost, Sidney Powell, later Rudy Giuliani joining a 4-hour-long extravaganza at the White House that went past midnight, and then it was in the early morning hours of the next day that he said, "Come to Washington on January 6th, will be wild." And the Proud Boys, they demonstrated last night, took that as an instruction, and that's when the planning from the militant side began for their trip to Washington on January 6th.
Well, I wonder about that now. What you just did is, if you put 2 and 2 together, that's the meeting where they cooked up an attack on the Capitol. Yeah. But how would you prove that?
Right, and I don't think you're ever, and I, by the way, I've talked to several people that were at that meeting, and I've done a lot of reporting around that meeting. By the way, an interesting moment, Patrick Byrne was there also, the CEO of Overstock.com, who's kind of like a higher level MyPillow guy in all of this. He's been funding a lot of this, and is really a conspiracy theorist, but a very smart one. He said that when they left the Oval Office, Trump turned to him and said, "That's the strangest meeting that ever happened in this room." and which it really was. I mean, it was like, it was nuts because Trump was just there with these outside conspiracy theorists, and then the lawyers find out about it in the White House. They race in, they try to confront them. They almost come to blows in the Oval Office. But was that a planning meeting for invading the Capitol on January 6th? No. I don't think they'll ever establish that, and I don't think it was. But what Trump did in tweeting that out and in building that case is he gave a cue, and they took it upon themselves to carry out Trump's will as they saw it.
And maybe
Trump never called them back,
and
not even
watching to see if he could take advantage of it.
Yes.
And one of the really astonishing moments was when Liz Cheney said that when Trump heard the "Hang Mike Pence" chants that were going on in there, he apparently said, according to Cheney, based on testimony, maybe our people understand this. Maybe he deserves it. And I wonder about Mike Pence. Is he going to testify? Did he?
Mike Pence is not going to testify, but you are going to hear from his chief of staff. You are going to hear from Greg Jacob, who was his counsel, who was involved in a lot of those meetings where the White House, where Trump's outside lawyers were trying to get him to agree to, overturn the election on the 6th. So you will hear very compelling testimony from people close to Mike Pence. By the way, Trump has denied that he said he deserved it. But do you remember what he told me in March of last year? I asked Trump directly. I went down to Mar-a-Lago less than 2 months after he left the White House, and I asked him about that. And that was, he was worried about Pence, and that was terrible. And I asked that, wasn't that terrible? And he said, well, they were angry.
Right.
And I said, they were chanting Mike Pence. And he said, it's common sense, John. It's common sense. How do you pass on a fraudulent vote? So that's entirely consistent with what he told me. It's one step further, but it's entirely consistent.
I mean, they may subpoena you. But
don't give him any ideas, Terry.
Yeah, another revelation that came out last night, which is also being denied, is that there were Republican members of Congress, who sought pardons from the Trump White House before he left office because they were concerned that what they were doing to overturn the will of the people and the election might engage in criminal activity.
Yeah, including Scott Perry, who is the kind of previously obscure right-wing member of Congress from Pennsylvania who came up with this idea of installing a new attorney general who would carry out all of Trump's wishes. There's another story that's related to this that I think we're going to hear. There's a woman named Cassidy Hutchinson who is a relatively junior aide to Mark Meadows, but she was at the White House. She was with Meadows. She saw what was going on January 6th. She just fired her lawyer, who was a pro-Trump lawyer, and hired a new lawyer who is not, and she is negotiating to testify live. One of the things we are told that she has already said, told the committee, is that she backs up a story that Meadows had been burning documents in his office. There's a fireplace, as you know, in the Chief of Staff's office, and that one of the burnings that was witnessed was after he had this meeting with Scott Perry. So what I mean, so there's more to come. There's more to come. No, I mean burning. I mean, we heard about the flushing down the toilet, and you know, first of all, the Chief of Staff has the second largest office outside the Oval Office. It's very nice, and there is a nice fireplace there. And this person who worked with Meadows for a long time, and was very close proximity to it all, you know, is we are told going to back up this report that he burned documents in that fireplace.
So big picture, the argument, not just debate, the argument between the people who are supporting this committee and the people who are criticizing it is people who are supporting the committee said, we came close. Yeah. It was an attempted coup. Yeah. And the other says, no, it wasn't. It was a dust-up, according to the coach of the Washington Commanders, or some such thing. And people are saying they are alarmist. How close did we come?
I think we came very close, and I think there were a number of points that we were basically saved from a much greater crisis, maybe even losing, you know, at least temporarily, what we consider our democracy. But good people did what they were supposed to do and refused to follow a president's orders to break the law. The most high-profile case is Mike Pence.
But others, too, down the line.
But others, too, local legislative leaders who refused Trump's orders to you know, throw out their electoral votes. People inside the West Wing. I think we came much closer than people realize.
Brad Raffensperger in Georgia.
Another prime example.
Yeah. Well, and one more of these kind of strings that people are pulling on. New documents obtained by the Washington Post are showing that Ginny Thomas, the wife of Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, sent an email to more than 29 Republicans, we're showing it here, at state lawmakers in Arizona, telling them they had to, quote, the power to fight back against fraud by setting aside Joe Biden's win and choosing an alternate slate of presidential electors. Now, we've had that happen in our country in the past, in 1876 in particular. But how big of a deal is this, that Clarence Thomas's wife is saying, ignore the will of the people of Arizona as certified under law and under the Constitution after the counts, and just send a different slate of electors?
Well, I'll give you an answer that might surprise you. First of all, it's shocking to hear that, but that's exactly what Donald Trump was directly telling legislators, not just in Arizona, but in Michigan and in Georgia and in Pennsylvania. So he was basically repeating what the President of the United States was saying. I don't think the committee sees her as a particularly central figure. She's married to a justice, you know, who, while Trump was saying, I'm going to get the Supreme Court to overturn the election, that looks really bad. But, you know, she's been considered a fringe, far-right figure for a long time, was constantly trying to get an audience at the White House. And the one person that she often had an audience with was Donald Trump. But you know, you know, it's one thing, so that you have the justice's wife doing it. Well, the President of the United States was doing it. And he wasn't just sending emails. He was doing it in person and summoning those legislators to come to the White House. Right. And meeting with them in the Oval Office and turning the screws.
So she's the cheerleader. He's the captain of the team and directing.
Yes.
All right. Well, John Karl, I know you'll be there throughout these hearings.
Yep.
Next one is on
Monday,
and you'll be there. And can't wait to hear what you have to say about it.
All right. Thanks, Terry. Good to talk to you.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.